Hey everyone, it's Patty from PS Paper Crafts, and we're doing the 12 weeks of Christmas series. We're moving right along. We're at week 6, so we're halfway through. And I wanted to show you a card. This was not my idea. I've seen a lot on Pinterest on using this Painted Harvest set, which is in the holiday catalog, and it's actually my favorite set, I think. I've made some autumn cards with the flowers, and that's the center, and then you can do this double stamping and you get some really nice texture with it. So I saw that people were doing wreaths with it, and they were using these little dots that you'd put in the flower as berries on your wreath. So I said, well, let me give it a try. So that's what we're going to make today. I have everything cut out. I'm using real red and Whisper White. Last year I think I used cherry cobbler and crumb cake for just about everything I did, or Night of Navy and white. But this year I've been into the garden green and the real red for Christmas. So I have that. I have my card base. This piece I cut at 3 3/4 by 5. Just to give it a little more room. I usually have a smaller border, but I wanted to have a little bit more. And I'm using the Wood Textures Designer Series paper, which comes in a 4 by 4, and I actually lost I've been using it and digging in, and it's got all kinds of, wood grains and stuff. And I really like it, and I thought the white would be good for this, or the lighter color. So I have that. It has the wood grain, but then I wanted to add a little more texture to it. So I actually used the embossing folder. It's called the Pinewood Planks Dynamic. So this is one of the thicker. If you feel it and compare it to another embossing folder, it's much thicker. And when you run this through, and we'll do it, you don't put a plate underneath it. It would be too thick. You wouldn't even be able to load it through. So I use that just, I don't know if you can even see it. It gives it a little texture. And then I just added some linen thread and the sentiment. And on the inside, I have another sentiment and just some greenery. And the sentiments, let me just put this aside there, came from Christmas Pines, which is in the annual catalog. So I used the Christmas Blessings, and then I used May, the Simple Joys of the Season Be Yours. There's some nice inside and outside sayings, and this is where I got the greenery. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me put these things aside. The first thing I'm going to do is my embossing. So I did, and let me just tell you, I cut out the squares using the layering squares. I use the layering framelits quite a bit. I have circles, squares, and ovals, and I just, especially at Christmas. So I did the smaller one, I believe is this size. I think it's like the third largest, and that's just a plain flat square. And then for this border, I did the scallop look, and this is the second biggest that I did. So I already did that. I cut it with my Big Shot. I didn't want to take all of your time here today, so let me put them aside as well as the base. And I'm just going to get my Big Shot out. And I have the old base plate. There are new ones that don't have the tabs, and you would just use the plate. But when I do embossing on this base, I have to open up the tab, and it actually tells you, which tabs you use for different things. So I'm going to put my open up there. I'm not going to put a base plate. And I'm going to try to line this up along the grain. Now, you'll get a deboss side and an emboss side. So the side that shows Sizzix, that's where it's going to pop up. And you can feel it. And then the deboss side, and I'll show you after I run it through what I'm talking about, in case you're losing me. I think I'm going to have it go this way, though, so I show more of that wood grain. So I'm going to put this down. I like to put the fold facing in, and I will just put a plate on top and kind of line it all up in here and start feeding it through. And I'll just go through, and I'm going to go through again. Okay, so let me get rid of my big shot. Get that out of the way. And then when we open this up, you'll see, and I hope you can see this, that it's popped up here and it's debossed here. And actually that's very pretty as well. So you can pick whichever side. We'll see which way we want to go with this. Then I'm going to stamp my wreath. And what I did was I stamped it on the square, and I stamped it in garden green. I have my stamp all mounted. And I stamped it twice. I went straight down and then I did a second time, so it was a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to ink it up, and I'll show you what I mean. And I'm going to just stamp it down. And then I'm going to lift it up, and I'm just going to twist it a little bit, just to give it, and I'm going to try to keep that circle. I hope you can see the circle in the middle. I'm trying to see through it to see that I put some of the stamped image offset from some of the others. So isn't that beautiful? It just gives it a little bit more depth and texture. So then I'm going to close this up, and we'll do the real red, and we'll do the berries. And we'll just do them, you know, here and there. This could probably be done in cherry cobbler as well, with maybe some old olive. I'll just do a few of them here and there. Okay, and I'm going to have a bow at the bottom, so I'm not going to really do that. And then we'll just mount this on the red layer, and I did that with my snail. So I'm just going to put some snail down. I didn't pop anything up with dimensionals here. You definitely could do that if you wanted. I thought this would be, there's kind of enough layers and dimension with the embossing. I didn't think it needed it, but feel free to do that if you make this card. So just kind of line it up. And then let me just pull my card over so you can follow along here. Then I'm going to attach this to the embossed layer, the wood layer. Kind of do it up toward the top and centered. So let's see. I think I'm going to do it this way. So this is the debossed side. It's kind of in, but I like this side, so I am going with it. Okay, so now we have this done. We can adhere this then to my card base. And the DSP is a thinner paper. If this was cardstock, I think I would probably put it down with the liquid glue or fast fuse because of the embossed, you know, the kind of the grooves and mountains and valleys and things like that, or nooks and crannies if you're a Thomas's English muffin person. Okay, and then lastly I have this Christmas blessing, and all I did was take this stamp, and again, this is the stamp from the Christmas Pines in the annual catalog. So I'm going to ink that up in the real red, and then I'll just put a tail on it. I've got things everywhere. So I'm going to do it toward this side. And while I'm stamping, I am going to stamp the inside layer, which I thought I had one. I guess I don't have one, so I'm going to just leave that off. But this is what I would do, is stamp that. Actually, I will get a piece and we'll do it so I can show you how I did the pines, because that was 2 steps. So let's get this finished. The next step is to do a fishtail here, and I'm going to cut way in, kind of cut in the center, and then got something on my thing there. Okay, and then I'm going to just cut up, and then on the other side, and I'm not a very good cutter here. I always struggle with this, but that worked out okay. And I just put it and kind of butt up against here. You could put it wherever you want. So I'm just going to lay that down. Okay, and then I use the linen thread. Let me just get that. I've got a pile of stuff here. So the linen thread, and this is what it looks like. I use this all the time, and I like to double it so I get kind of a thicker piece. So I'm going to double it and trim it. And I just dropped my card. And I'll just tie a bow, and I'll decide how long I want the ends. And I know I'm wasting it, but I think for this one I wanted to kind of keep it longer, and I wasn't sure how long I wanted it, so I just cut some extra. So I'll put that down. I think I'll put it down with a glue dot, and then I'll cut it so that it's hanging long but not covering our sentiment. So with the glue dots, they're there. Usually you just kiss your paper to it and it'll pull it off. But when I'm doing a bow, I just roll it into my finger and put it on the back. And then you can just stick it down, and it holds really well. Now I like these long. Typically I'll cut them shorter, but I'm going to just take my scissors and just have them hanging down to that banner. Okay, and let me just quick grab a piece of cut inside, and I'll show you how I did that. Okay, I knew I would have one. I always have these lying around. So what I did was I put the sentiment in, and I think I'm going to use a different sentiment. I think I'm going to use the May Your Christmas Sparkle with Joy and Happiness. So let me get that one is here. And I will mount that. And we'll do that in red. You could do it in green. Okay, so I'll just ink that up and put it right about there. Okay, so that came out good. And then I'm going to use the green, the garden green again, and just put a little bit of greenery in there. So this one has two stamps. They almost look the same, and I actually had to stamp on paper to try to determine what was the darker and what was the lighter. So I think this one is the more, I would call it detailed. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'm going to stamp this, and I'll just do it kind of here. Okay, and then this one I will stamp off on paper to get some of the ink off, and then it will be a lighter look. And I'm just going to pull this down and try to look right over it so I can see the darker lines and make sure I have it lined up correctly. And it takes a little bit, but you'll get there. And we'll just press that down. So it kind of gives it a, you know, a couple of different colors in there. It gives it a little more dimension. And then we'll just attach this to the inside, and we're done. So I thought this was a simple card, and to be honest, I think this would be a good one to mass produce if you wanted to, because it's, you know, there's not a lot. If you sat and cut the squares and had them all set, you could do your stamping. It just seems like it would be pretty easy to do. So these are the cards. I hope you enjoyed them. And week 6, we're getting closer. So I'll see you next week for week 7. I am going to the Stamping Up convention next week, so I'll be a little light on the videos, but I will be next Monday with week 7. Okay, you have a good day. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. You can find all the supplies you need on my blog, and I'll have that in the YouTube description. And you can shop on my online store and ask me any questions. Okay, you have a good day. Thank you. Bye.